First The View, and now MSNBC is having some interesting takes. In fact, Mehdi Hasan, who is an MSNBC host on Peacock, decided to bring on ex-Senator Joe Lieberman. Joe Lieberman, of course, is one of the original, I guess, so-called centrists, likes to call himself a centrist. He's actually a super corporate Democrat. And there was some interesting back and forth in this interview. Let's start with the first one.
You were a famous quote-unquote centrist senator. And yet my issue with that word is that centrist doesn't necessarily reflect the American people's views. I want to pull up some polling. Here are some of the measures in that Build Back Better bill that quote-unquote centrists like Manchin and Sinema want to get rid of. Here's how popular they are. Hugely popular across the spectrum. 83% support, 84% support, 73% support. And yet you and Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema oppose many of those measures that the American people overwhelmingly support. So the question is, how in the world does that make you a centrist? Surely based on that polling, Bernie Sanders is closer to the center of American politics and public opinion than you are or Joe Manchin is.
Damn. All right, so a bit of a great start. Yes, he's right when he says Bernie Sanders is pretty much in the center of American politics. He pushes for incredibly popular things that are actually incredibly sensible. And by the way, fights for them harder than any other Democrats, which, again, not exactly the highest bar, as most Democrats don't even fight for these things at all. But understand that in world politics, because our Overton window has been pushed so far to the right, that, again, the right wing is often crazy land, insane, that what's considered to be the centrist position in America is actually incredibly right wing and corporate. So if you're calling yourself a centrist, well, then that's the side that you're on. You're on the side of corporatism and right-wing economic policy. So Bernie Sanders would be center-left, for example, in Europe. And so, again, Soc Dem or Social Democrat, that's what Bernie Sanders is. Yeah, he would be considered just a normal mainstream center-left politician. He's right. He's right. So now we're one of the only modern countries who do not have guaranteed health care, paid family leave, child care, or free college, or at least vastly reduced costs of college. We also pay the most for prescription drugs, and of course the Democrats took a lot of these provisions out that would address some of these issues of their bill. So now, as I said, Lieberman is one of the original corporate Democrats. He claims to lean towards the middle. In reality, of course, he leans towards the green, corporate donations. And so it's whatever they want. And here we have Manchin and Sinema openly taking after him. Of course, they're not the only corporate Democrats in the House and Senate. There's quite a few. Josh Gottheimer is one of them. Mark Warner, Nancy Pelosi, obviously. Again, both parties are awash with corporate money. These politicians are bought off because we have a system of legalized bribery in this country. And so think about it this way. The negotiations, so-called negotiations that happened weren't between moderate or centrist points of view and progressives. No. This has basically been a negotiation between different industry interests. And that's what happened. So, for example, Manchin's interests are in his son's coal company that he owns part of. Okay, he's got different investments in coal. He's basically a baron, and so he gets a lot of his income from those investments in, for example, Enersystems, right? Burns waste coal. So that's his interest. Now, Sinema, her interests are from pharmaceutical industry. She got over $750,000 from the pharmaceutical industry, I think in the last cycle. And of course, she represents them. She says, no, I don't want any tax on billionaires, which is a position that, of course, all corporate Democrats seem to share. But she also doesn't want anything that would help Americans pay lower drug costs, which Joe Manchin didn't necessarily really oppose. And other, of course, Democrats are okay with, or at least they say that they're publicly okay with. Richard Neal wants to protect billionaires, and as does Nancy Pelosi. And so understand what this is. This is a negotiation between the donors using their politicians as proxies. And that's it. So now notice how the bipartisan bill is chock full of corporate goodies. Nobody seems to be against any of that. But 50 Republicans and 2 Democrats, well, they're against anything that helps workers. Gee, I wonder why. I wonder what the issue is. Oh, right, it's the corruption. It's the money. But before I get too far and talk too much, I have another video here that I want to share of an interesting exchange. Take a look.
One thing I should raise here in the context of Build Back Better is your support for No Labels. This is the self-styled, bipartisan, centrist political group. You devote a chapter. So in the 50 Democratic votes, the argument Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden and others are making is there are 48 Democrats for most of this stuff. It's two Democrats who are saying, no, elderly people, seniors, shouldn't be able to get free dental or free vision. How can anyone oppose seniors getting free vision or dental or paid family leave, which every other Western country has? Do you oppose those things?
No, so that's what I was going to say about that polling. If you ask people, they are in favor of these things, of course, they seem good, they're right. I'd like to do them all, but we can't afford them all.
A lot of people would disagree with what you said about not being able to afford it. The Senate is in the middle of passing a $750 billion defense bill, which is higher than what Biden asked for, higher than what Trump asked for. We always have money for defense, not for social measures. And I think other people would say, you know, there's a lot of corporations, a lot of rich people who are lobbying against this bill. They don't want this bill because it's going to hurt them.
Oh, man, look at that. He says, we can't afford it, guys. I wish we could do these things. I am totally in support of all these things, except that I'm not, because we can't afford it. We can't afford it. Complete and utter garbage. Again, Hasan brings up, quite correctly, the fact that we have a, over $750 billion war budget. It's not a defense budget. It's a war budget. And so, again, when it comes to bombing brown people, turns out we got all the money in the world. Oh, look at that. When it comes to healthcare for seniors, much less everyone else, oh, no, we don't have any money. We just can't afford it. We're going through and we're just looking at, we're looking at, for change in the couch, and we just can't seem to find anything. Oh, by the way, here's another bucket of money for the defense contractors. And look, of course, there's a reason. Bosses want to keep you poor, desperate, so you work in their shitty workplaces in order to keep your barely affordable health care. You can have health insurance, but that just because you have health insurance doesn't mean you can afford your copays. Doesn't mean you can afford your medication. Okay? Doesn't mean you can afford your deductible. What the fuck? A deductible? What is that? Why should you have to pay when you already pay a premium? Why should you have to pay a set amount before you can even use your insurance? That's an insane thing that exists only in this country, a deductible. If you had paid leave, you could actually spend time with your family instead of being at work. But of course, it's obvious why they don't want that, because they want you to be at work. The other thing, of course, is defense contractors have just an army of lobbyists. So no matter what, they're always going to be able to find money that they can keep shoving into the Pentagon while using the military's, offer of free college as a nice little cynical recruiting tool. Okay? So, oh, you don't want college debt? You go and join the military and kill brown people. That's what they're doing. And so it's incredibly gross. So the next video here, and you saw a little bit, the next video here is when they get into no labels.
One thing I should raise here in the context of Build Back Better is your support for No Labels. This is the self-styled, bipartisan, centrist political group. You devote a chapter of your new book to praising its work. No Labels, though, is funded a lot of critics would say by the kind of asset managers, hedge funds, private equity groups, who of course don't want the higher taxes that come with Build Back Better. Democratic Congressman Mark Pocan says he was duped by No Labels when he was first elected to the House in 2018. He says, quote, No Labels is a centrist corporate organization working against Democrats with dark, anonymous money to advance power for special interests, period. What's your response to that?
Wow. Well, I can tell you, I've been involved in No Labels since I left the Senate, and I've been at meetings with some of the people who fund the group and members of Congress coming through. And I must say that I've never heard one of the business people there talk to one of the members of the Congress about their business taxes, their personal taxes, if you can believe it. And I'm just telling you what I've heard.
But Joe Lieberman, surely I have to jump in with respect. Surely you're not telling us that all of these millionaires and billionaires who give money to these groups and its PACs are not interested in lower taxes and are not openly lobbying against a tax on billionaires or higher taxes on corporations. Come on, we both know that's the case.
I'm sure some of them are. I'm just telling you, I've never seen it happen in No Labels.
I've never seen that happen in No Labels. What are you talking about? Never seen it happen. Oh, I'm sure some of them do, but you know, serve corporate donors. I've never seen it. Never seen it before. No. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? That's the entire purpose of No Labels. To corporate donors. That's it, and to serve them. No, look, understand that if you're a member of No Labels, you have basically told corporations, "I'm open for business. Come bribe me. No Labels, bribe me. Like, give me money, and I will do exactly what you want. You want me to stop progressive policy? Done. Oh, you want me to prevent you from being, from your taxes being raised? Done. And that's it. You might as well stick a for sale sign on your back, because that's what it is. So, a complete and utter bullshit from Joe Lieberman, who is basically, guy's like a walking corpse, like a ghoul. And of course, still has ghoulish positions. And speaking of that, by the way, one of his most ghoulish positions is his still support for the Iraq War.
Have you shifted on the Iraq War? Before I let you go, I got to ask you about Iraq. We just saw the 20th anniversary of 9/11, the end of the Afghan war. You have someone like Chris Murphy now representing Connecticut that you sat in for the Senate. He's very critical of the Iraq war. Have you disowned it? As recently as 2015, 2016, you were still saying you thought it was a good thing overall. It was a disaster. Are you willing to say tonight it was a disaster, you were wrong, you regret it, you apologize?
Well, I'm sorry to disappoint you. I'm not. I mean, look, I was in the majority of members of the Senate Democratic Caucus who voted to authorize President Bush to go to war in Iraq to get rid of Saddam Hussein. But my point of contention with a bunch of my fellow Democrats who turned against the war then was that we can't just cut funding for our troops in battle, which is what a couple of Democrats tried to do, and I was the decisive vote against.
But come on, it was.
And we can't leave this battlefield in defeat because it'll until we stabilize the country. And frankly, we did. That actually happened.
But hold on. I have to ask this. We're out of time, but I have to jump in here. Thousands of Iraqis died, innocent men, women, children, civilians, in U.S. airstrikes, in massacres, in places like Haditha, Mahmudiyah, Balad. I asked John Bolton this same question almost exactly a year ago on the show. Does none of that bother you? Doesn't affect your conscience? Doesn't keep you up at night? The sheer level of suffering that we caused in Iraq?
Yeah, but of course it does. But the truth is that the people of Iraq were suffering terribly under Saddam Hussein, and so were the people of the region. I think the world is safer, as your headline up there from an earlier statement of mine, without him there. The cost of the war, both in lives and in money, American money, was way beyond what I ever anticipated. So I suppose if you could have foreseen that, I might have felt differently about it. But I'm not going to go back and try to correct.
I would hope that if you had foreseen thousands of deaths, you would have thought differently about it. We'll have to leave it there.
Wow. Okay, then. So, Crypt Keeper, not feeling bad, really, all that much about Iraq. Guess if you see, I'm not going to go back and talk about that. I mean, of course, I regret that. But, I'm not going to go back and say that I regret the entire thing. I would have supported the whole thing. Again, he's not saying that you know, he doesn't want to go back and vote differently, because, I mean, he wouldn't go back and vote differently. That's why he won't say it. That's why he won't admit it. He'd do the exact same thing again, knowing what he knew now. Absolutely would. Absolutely would. Knowing how much money and lives were wasted. And by the way, the entire results, not just from the conflict itself, but the results of the Iraq War, 1 million innocent people died as a result of our intervention, as well as the destabilization of the country. We stabilized Iraq. Bullshit, we did. Oh, is that why ISIS came out of Iraq? Huh. Yeah. Is that why? Is that why we had, years and years of sectarian violence that was unnecessary? Come on. You guys living in a complete different reality, okay? But understand that this is what so-called centrism looks like in the United States, okay? Understand, I'm showing you because there is a group of people, a very large group of people, who think, oh no, centrism, that's good, right? We're in the center. We agree with both sides. We're not taking sides on these issues. No, you are taking sides on these issues. That side happens to be the right-wing side. You're not centrist at all. You're conservative. Maybe not on social issues, but you're definitely conservative on war and on economic issues, okay? And again, what they do, groups like No Labels, they give work to give corporations or preserve giant tax breaks for corporations while shoveling billions of dollars into bombing brown children. All while old people can't afford teeth or to see. We just can't afford it. We just can't afford it, guys. Can't afford it. This is why centrism in the United States is a completely bankrupt notion. It's bullshit. It's marketing, and should be tossed out. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share with your friends. You can subscribe and help out the channel by becoming a patron. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf, or you can become a channel member as well by hitting the join button below.